Welcome to our Play Well podcast series. My name is Marguerite Hunter-Blair and I am Chief Executive of Play Scotland, the national organisation for play. Today we will look at play and sport. To explore this topic, we will hear from Lee Craigie and Melodie Crumlin. Melodie has over 20 years' experience of working in the voluntary sector and has long been a passionate advocate for children's play, community arts and youth work. Melodie is currently the Thrive Outdoor Fund Manager at Inspiring Scotland. She was previously the founding CEO of award-winning charity Peak and CEO of the Judy Murray Foundation. Lee is the Active Nation Commissioner for Scotland. She is the official representative of walking, cycling and physical activity across the nation. Lee is a former professional mountain bike racer and director of the Adventure Syndicate, as well as a trained child and adolescent psychotherapist. First, our Head of Projects, Cherie Morgan, spoke with Lee Craigie.
Hi Lee, thanks for chatting to us today. Could you first of all tell us a bit about yourself and your role as Scotland's Active Nation Commissioner?
Hello, and thank you very much for having me. My name is Lee Craigie and I am the Active Nation Commissioner for Scotland. But my background is in child and adolescent psychotherapy and outdoor education. So this is a bit of an unusual pathway into this role, I suppose, which is really strategic and quite policy-based and concerned very much with the infrastructure of our environment so that we can be more active and we can be playful. So really coming at this all from a different angle. I'm not a roads engineer, I'm not a politician. I'm just somebody who really enjoys movement and understands what that can connect us to. Both ourselves and nature. And that, I guess, is my motivation for doing this job.
And what does your role involve? What do you do?
So, oh heavens, my role. How would you go about turning Scotland into an active nation on 2 days a week? It's incredibly diverse. And I am not somebody that finds it very easy to focus. I'm quite high energy and I quite like to do and meet face to face and be practical. But you can't do that in this role. You need to take a big step back and look at the whole situation from a bird's eye view. You need to do a lot of work group with delivery partners, so Sustrans, Pass for All, Living Streets, Cycling Scotland, Play Scotland, and I hold hands with Scottish Government, so Transport Scotland and Active Scotland, and try to bring everybody together to have these kind of bigger conversations. And yeah, I speak to local authorities about what they might need to do to implement changes to our environment that mean that everybody can access safe, pleasant places to have fun in, to move for transport, but also just to move for joy. I mean, let's forget about this as a utilitarian way to get about. Just moving your body brings you such joy, and we need space in order to do that. So there's a lot of talking about how to make sure that that's possible for every single member of Scotland, not just every single citizen of Scotland, not just those that can afford to and live in places where there's leafy green space on their doorstep.
I love the idea of moving for joy, and that I think brings us on to play. So what was your experience of play growing up?
I was so lucky growing up. So I lived in a suburb of Glasgow, but I had real autonomy of movement. So there was a Lenzie Moss, it's a nature reserve now, was this big piece of peatland restoration and mixed woodland just on the edge of my estate. And I was allowed to go and explore that myself. I was given autonomy to go and explore that myself, which, looking back, I mean, I thought it was normal at the time, but it was actually just such a gift to have that on my doorstep. And in doing so, I was able to use my imagination I used to pretend that I was, do you remember Knight Rider? Do you remember, Michael Knight? So
Absolutely, that's my era.
That was it. So I was Michael Knight and my red BMX was Kit. And together we would go and explore the universe and solve crime and be our best selves. And it was really exciting. Like I was never bored. There was always people to play with if I wanted to, but I was equally happy just in my own head. And I had an older sister who, if I needed a challenge, then she would play with me. I come from a really active family. Both my sister and mum are physical education teachers. So even back then, we were encouraged to experiment. Like there wasn't such a thing as getting something wrong. We were encouraged to just go and be creative and have fun. And if we failed at something, then we were able to kind of laugh it off and get up and continue to challenge. There was definitely that continuing to challenge aspect, but there was permission to be playful and to be creative and be autonomous. And I think all of those things together meant that I was really, really lucky. And it's only now really that I realise just how lucky I was, because not every child has that possibility.
Yes, and I think some of those experiences are what forms us, the experiences we have growing up. So how do you think those experiences helped you develop as an athlete and as someone who enjoyed sport? Yeah,
so I think, again, so being from an elite sporting background, I was 10 years a professional mountain biker. And I watched, in my days riding a bike profession, I watched at races, little kids being forced onto the track with some very, very focused, well-meaning but very focused parents, like tiny little tots, 3, 4, sometimes even on balance bikes. And the looks on their faces, they were so startled at having to be in this environment where, this is a competition, I'm racing somewhere. I never had that. I wasn't introduced to the competitive element of cycling until I was 26. Up until then, I'd done things competitively, but I just enjoyed moving my body. I was personally motivated to play rugby and to play basketball and to get involved in team sports. But it wasn't really until I got into cycling that I realised just how all-consuming it was. It was my way to travel between friends. It was my way to journey into the mountains, deeper into the mountains. It was my way to connect with people. It was a really sociable sport. And so, yeah, it was that really that got me hooked. And I was never one of those little kids that was put on the start line and was startled into competition. So I think it was that permission to fail that I talked about earlier, the creativity, that sort of the fun aspect, the enjoyment of just moving your body just for the sake of moving your body. I was so lucky to find myself in an environment like that growing up. And in so doing, in being in those positions, then when you do mess up a shot, or you do fall over, or something goes wrong and you feel, and when you would normally feel a bit silly and you would throw the towel in and you'd stomp home, I didn't have that, because there was somebody there to sort of laugh with me and help me realise that it wasn't a big deal. And so then that breeds resilience to those sorts of setbacks, because I think being a professional athlete is not actually about how well you can do a thing, it's how willing you are to get back up once you've had a little knock and just keep going. So it's that sort of resilience in a bigger sense that I think I got from play, and rough play and outdoor play. I think you get that naturally when you're buffeted by the elements and you're allowed to explore the local woodland, and it's okay to get dirty, and to fall out of trees and rip your clothes, and you're not going to be torn strips off. It's part of growing up.
Yes, and I think those are some of the experiences that do build resilience. And you've spoken already about things that you've learned through play, creativity and just learning through falling and getting up again. Are there some of those experiences you think that young people, children, aren't getting now through play that they really should be getting and deserve? What do you think young people are experiencing now?
In outdoor education terms, I suppose I see an awful lot of management of risk going on, and we absolutely do need to make sure that our young people are kept safe, but I think we also need to take a step back and consider what happens if these young people never get a chance to fall over and to hurt themselves and to figure out where their boundary lies. Because if all we do is manage our young people's risk for them, then they never learn to manage it themselves. And so that's what I see, unfortunately, from my point of view, I see that having grown over the last 15 years, people becoming more and more and more risk averse, wanting to protect their children more. I mean, for the absolute best of reasons. I feel it myself when I see my nephew out there playing in the streets. You know, I don't want him to get hurt or bullied or fall over or get hit by a car. There's all of that stuff, isn't there? I don't want him to fall out of a tree. It goes against my every instinct. And yet I also know that if he doesn't put himself in these situations where he understands where the limits of his body are, where he understands where the limits of his sociabilities are as well, like how other kids react to him, then he's not going to grow the same resilience that I was lucky enough to grow. And so, yeah, I think helping young people to manage their own risk, I think, is the biggest gift that we can give them. And I think we need to be really bold in allowing them to be put in those positions of adversity. Adversity is the thing that we shy away from it, but is also the thing that makes us who we are. It makes us human. It makes us tick. It gives us everything. If we don't have any adversity in our lives, then we sink into nothing. But if we have a little bit, then it's like exercising a muscle, isn't it? It gets stronger and we grow and we learn.
It is having that confidence, though, for practitioners, isn't it? And for those in charge to be able to allow children to take those risks and enable children to have those experiences. And I suppose, what are the key messages to practitioners and to parents about, getting out, being active and playing that we need them to know? What would be your key messages?
Yeah, that's such a hard one, because I would never want to stand up and say this is what we must be doing to allow the next generation of young person be their best selves. Everyone's got a different way of doing it. But I suppose a question that is important to ask of yourself if you work with young people or if you're raising young people is, what is the risk if they don't? I suppose, like, what is it? It's so much easier to control everything, isn't it? Like, to bring everything to ground, to manage things closely. It makes us, especially if we're just a little bit anxious, then that is our automatic response. But allowing that control to be given to the person that is gonna one day need to be able to control their own lives in order to make those decisions themselves, that's something that I think we owe our young people. So it's almost like, yeah, when a kid is really young, you do need to be the guardian of some of those decision makings, but only to a certain extent. And I think we need to be always questioning if we're going to step in and stop something from happening with a young person. It'd be great, wouldn't it, if we just had this little moment where we're like, do I really have to? Or is this necessary? Or is this my anxiety driving me to do this? Because there's so much good learning can come if you just pause for a second and let a young person muddle through something or get it wrong, and then be there afterwards to pick up those pieces and to embed that as a positive learning experience rather than something tragic that has just happened.
Enabling children to muddle through is one of the best descriptions of learning through play that I think I've heard of recently, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're enabling the child or the young person to make a mistake or sort of do something that might not be quite right, but then to learn from it and gain from the experience. It's been really great to talk to you today. Are there anything else that you want to tell us about? Anything that you think people could get involved in, being active? Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, it must be such a struggle, I think. I see busy people sort of trying to fit physical activity into their daily lives. I see it all the time, and I try it myself, and especially as the nights are drawing in and it just feels like such an effort with the weather changing, and then I've just had the weekend with my nephew there who's just bouncing off the walls, just wanting to be outside all the time, and he's really helped me to just embed that physical activity into my everyday. And so instead of not going out or driving the car that short distance to get the shopping, just working that into a little adventure, running to the shops with him, or just doing those everyday short journeys, like taking the long way around through some woodland to visit a friend. Or there's just lots of little things that you can do to just embed everyday adventure into your life and find that joy is just there. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, when the last thing you want to do is go out and play, for goodness sake. But it's just there, and sometimes you just need a 8-year-old to show you the way.
We've come right back round to moving for joy, which I think is a lovely thought and sentiment, and actually just a nice sort of mantra to have. So thank you very much, Lee Craigie, Active Nation Commissioner, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And next, our Head of Projects, Cherie Morgan, catches up with Melodie Crumlin.
Hello Melodie, thank you for coming along today. Can you please introduce yourself and say a bit about what play means to you?
Thanks for having me. My name's Melodie Crumlin, and I'm currently the Thrive Outdoors Fund Manager at Inspiring Scotland. Play, play means so many things to me. It means the outdoors, it means connection, it means feeling included, it means a natural way for everybody of all ages to learn and develop themselves, as well as learning about the world round about them. Play's great. In fact, it's essential for our health and well-being, and it keeps us active both in our bodies and minds. It's a human right. But more importantly, I think, what play means to me is it's fun and it's for everyone. I often, think of a saying, and I think about it more and more as I get older, and I look at adults round about me. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And I think fundamentally, play is life.
That's a nice thing to think about, that play is so essential, that play is life. Can you tell me you spoke there about being the fund manager in the Thrive Outdoors programme. Can you tell me a bit more about the programme?
Yes, so Thrive Outdoors programme is part of the organisation Inspiring Scotland, and we provide both strategic and practical support to communities, organisations and public bodies to encourage collaboration and innovation to further develop their outdoor play and learning across Scotland. How do we do that? We do that by sharing best practice. We do that by collaborating on research and providing on-the-ground practical and operational guidance to embed that practice. Alongside facilitating outdoor play and learning, we've got a number of other services as well at Thrive Outdoors, from consultancy to training, and we've got a number of free online resources. And we also administer funding as well on behalf of Scottish Government and other stakeholders to the charities who are providing outdoor play across the country. At the moment, our main fund supports 25 charities who are delivering organised outdoor play across 15 local authorities. And the aim of that fund, supported by Scottish Government, is to provide opportunities for children and families to become more aware of the benefits of playing outside whilst improving their health and well-being.
Okay, that sounds really comprehensive in terms of your offer there. Thinking of those approaches, what sort of things can support families and children to play more in their day-to-day lives?
Yep, so I think there's a number of different approaches, and first and foremost, I think, it's keeping things simple, it's keeping it fun, it's keeping it local. Many of our communities have some sort of play space, whether that's a school playground, a street, a park, a garden, your living room, even your flat. If you step a flat or a close, you've got stairs. Play doesn't need to be expensive. As I've said before, you can utilise things that are in and around the home, outside your environment. Parents playing with their children and being physically active, it's so important for families to play together. Getting parents and carers to play and to move more with their children, whether that's walking, cycling, shooting basketball hoops, kicking a ball, running up and down stairs, throwing and catching. For kids or families who don't see themselves to be, sporty, we need to create the right conditions. And there's three things that I think we need to think about with that: is the right people, the right setting, and the right resources. And surrounding that is, we keep it fun. a child who associates fun and enjoyment with physical activity, a child who, gains a sense of achievement as they master a different physical skill, will develop a positive attitude. And if they develop that positive attitude, the likelihood, and there's been loads of research done on it, is that they will continue to participate. And as a parent myself, sometimes life gets a little bit serious, a little bit hard, and you forget to play. You forget to play. Now, your play, play can be anything. It's different to everybody, and I think it, absolutely changes as you get older. But yourself, if you take that wee bit of time out of your day to play, whether that's go for a walk, whether that's listen and dance to a bit of music in your kitchen, and you escape, and how good that makes you feel, how better you feel about yourself and perhaps a situation. So it's getting yourself into that mindset. Well, if that's what it does to me, I need to make sure I need to prioritise that for my child. And then, thinking about, the practitioners, whether that's volunteers or paid members of staff, to increase their professional practice. There's lots of great free resources and courses out there that can be accessed as well for them to increase their confidence and competence and knowledge base as well around active play and sport and physical activity. In fact, one of our partners who I mentioned before, Agile, they have a fantastic free digital hub called Actify. That hub where a number of charities and public sector bodies across the country who are championing active play, sport, physical activity. They share best practice, there's courses, there's webinars, there's all sorts of things, and there's it's a great space for sharing and learning from each other as well.
Thank you so much today for that, Melodie, and really appreciate you coming along. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this podcast. Next time, we will be looking at policy and partnership work. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred app and join the conversation by using the hashtag PlayWellPodcast. And find out more about Play Scotland by following us on Twitter @PlayScotland and visit our website playscotland.org.